Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick Taking Table. I am Taylor Reiner, Grinch Baby Tropicana 55. That's right, this is a T3C convention chat. It was such a wonderful, wonderful time. Oh, please go. Oh, can I just say, please go. This is going to be a wrap-up of the convention. But first, giveaway time. I reached out to some of y'all who've won already, but might as well announce it. The winner for the Shafkov decks, where you guessed a number, it was in the video. It was in the video. Some of you did wonderful guesses. 25 was good. I think 555 was good. 55 was always good. There's a lot of good 5 guesses. But as an Easter egg, as you can see in the video, put in a number. Put in a number. Take a number, please. And again, that's right. Hidden in the video. 52 was the number, which is kind of like, you know, 50, that's an S. 50, I can't do that. 50 flipped 2, 52, kind of like 55 in a way, in a little bit of a way. Well, it was actually wild. 4 people got it right, but 2 people got it right sooner. So I reached out to the 2 people who got it right sooner. Thank you so much. 2 people who got it right later, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to break up a tie, so I just went for sooner. Great guessing. You're wonderful. But thank you everyone for reaching out for this wonderful, wonderful Sai Beppu art deck. The other giveaway, sandbag. Where did I drop this? The actual answer was Portland, Oregon. I was in my room, which it hurt. It hurt. People guessed Portland, Oregon. You were right. Just know that you were right in your heart. But even before I actually dropped that, my plan was to have it be the location I was right before going to T3C, which was, drum roll please, ba-da-ba-da, ba-da-ba-da, ba-da-da-ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't know why I'm saying The Price is Right, because it was actually Mardi Gras. That's right. With all these beads, which smell strange, don't remind you of Mardi Gras. I will just say that's where I was. It was a wild event, to say the least. It was my first, probably only Mardi Gras. It was very cool. It was very cool. A lot of people, a lot of drinking. I had a fun time. There's a lot of fun food and fun parades. In fact, I went to the Rex parade and they were throwing out decks of cards, Rex decks. So I got one, a Japanese garden one. It was great. I was really hoping to grab it just because, you know, trick-taking cards, playing cards. And I was like, oh, I can't find one. I was there waiting in the parade. I had my hands out and thankfully they threw it and the person that I don't think was paying attention, it bounced off their head and landed on the ground, and I looked down and there it was, and no one was reaching for it, and I grabbed it. So this sadly has hit someone on the head, but it is now under my possession. So maybe in a future video we will be using this Rex deck to talk about a standard deck trick-taking game, hopefully. So where this landed in Mardi Gras, New Orleans, 2024. This was landing in the middle of Bourbon Street. And a lot of close guesses, a lot of Texas guesses actually, which is, you know, fitting. And, but someone did put somewhere in Louisiana, and I didn't do the math with the geography, but I'm pretty sure it's close. So, woo, please reach out. You have won a copy of Sandbag. Thank you so much everyone for guessing numbers, guessing locations. I know it's all wacky, but it's so much fun to get games out to y'all. It's my favorite part of the channel. And we're actually pretty close to 3,055. Oh, I have a fun thing planned for that milestone, but we'll get to that later. Because for now, we are talking about T3C, the wonderful trick-taking convention in Round Rock, Austin, Texas. it was an absolute blast. I cannot thank the runners enough. Derek, Aaron, Taylor, and Jake. They put on a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful weekend of gaming. I'll cover all the stuff I did, all the games I played. And I do just want to say it was sincerely an amazing time. We did tours of the city. We had that wonderful size of a convention where you can bounce around from table to table and meet new people, but it's not too loud, or you feel like it's not like very personal, or kind of impersonal. There was a prize couch, a prize sofa, all these games that were on the prize. There wasn't a table for it, just a prize sofa. There's a wonderful library. Played a lot of new games, played a lot of old games. It was just a wonderful, wonderful hoot. So yes, if you're thinking about it, definitely go. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. Without further ado, we'll do a very short montage because it's 4 a.m. and I think I want to upload this later today. So thank you so much for watching. Next week, because this is the unannounced con week, or month rather. Next week, we're doing Dice Art West. We're covering that. And it will have the panel hidden as well within it. So definitely check that out. But without further ado, mini montage and then con thoughts. See you soon. Alrighty, that was T3C in Round Rock, Texas, near Austin. It was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. Thank you so much to Derek, Jake, Aaron, and Taylor, and everyone else there who was just absolutely amazing. The convention itself was run so smoothly, and it was such a blast. The Airbnb itself was wild. I think it's one of those conventions where you can have it in this small Airbnb. You set up these tables. Everyone has the living space in the same area, and it feels very close. It feels very tight-knit. It's kind of the perfect size, I think, for a convention like that. So much fun. Played loads of them. Here's my badge, which you may have seen earlier, but there I am. I put TBD I have realized I love going to conventions and not having too much of a plan. Sure, there's some hotness that I would love to try. Sure, there's some favorites that I'll always love to try. But I think my favorite thing to do is not have too much of a plan and just kind of see where things go. And second favorite thing to do is actually look at other people's badges and see what they really, really wanted to play, and then have that be what we play. There's nothing more fun than when someone's like, hey, I brought this game, I've been meaning to play it, it's been on my shelf of shame for a really long time, and we get to play it. It's such a fun feeling, because then they feel good that they brought it, they feel good about the convention because they got to play a game they've wanted to play. And hey, it does take a lot of that, what are we gonna play, out of the decision, and you get right into gaming. It's kind of like when you're trying to choose what to eat, and you just don't know what to eat, and you sit there like Sylvia Plath, just looking at all of the options of the tree, and you just don't know what to pick, and they wither around you. Wow, that got dark. Anyway, I'm looking right here, because I have, off to the side, list of games that I played on BGG, and you may have noticed in the pictures, some of them. The very first one was American Bookshop, the amazing American Bookshop. I think this is just an absolute classic. I am always surprised at how well it works at 5, which is so fun. I think that's such a feather in the cap of a trick-taking game that also works great at 3 and 4. It's just a techie classic. It was shown to someone who hadn't played either that or Cauldron 15. And at the table, there was a lot of debate on which was better, especially because one of the T3C organizers, Derek, has a strong opinion that American Bookshop is better. I think it's one of his favorite games. And it just lived up to it. It was so much fun to start off the convention. What a way to start off the convention with a Teki Shizawa classic that just landed so well with everyone at the table. I will say, I came into the convention hot off the heels of my very first and probably only Mardi Gras celebration. I went to Mardi Gras just before, if you notice the beads, and that was wild. So to go from being on Bourbon Street at like 2 in the morning and there's drunk people and loud people and wild people, to a nice, wonderful convention was a bit of a mental shift, but I think American Bookshop really brought me back in, and it was a great way to start the con. The other things we played, we kind of jumped right into some of the hotness. I know some people wanted to play, because Chris Wray was there, the amazing Chris Wray, some of his games that he brought. So first he brought Sears Catalog, which is actually right over here. But he brought this, and I couldn't help but want to look at it and stare at it and shake it and kind of not believe it existed. So after getting over the fact that I can hold tangibly this game in my hand, Chris came, and Chris brought some of his wonderful games. And I think one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't get to play Change of Heart by him, because Hearts, I just love Hearts. And he has a kind of a 4-game box with a bunch of different Hearts variants in it. And I would love, love, love to play that soon. But what we did play was Rewind, which, as you can see here, is a wild game. So the premise of Rewind is it's kind of a one-hand game. Chris was telling me that he's in love with the idea of a one-hand game lately and what you can do in that space. And so technically it's a one-hand game where you play a trick-taking game, and it's 13 tricks or so, and you keep track of who got first, second, third. You put your cube there, and you go all the way down this track, and then you take up your cards, and you play backward from 13 to 1, and you need to get in the exact same spot. Whew, sounds wild, or maybe sounds not interesting, or whatever it may be. But what's wild and what's so interesting is, if you think about the course of a trick-taking game and how people slowly become off-suit, at the start you're following, and then you become off-suit, and players can play kind of whatever they want as you get to the end of a hand. Which is fascinating, because then when you start the hand backward and you're trying to do the same thing backward, It doesn't work out. It's never worked out. Chris has said through all the playtests that he's done and all the session feedbacks that he's gotten, no one's ever perfectly gone there and back. And it is so fascinating to see. It is one of those kind of, I want to call it like a science experiment of a trick-taking game, where you're like, how does that work? And then it does. I've seen some people say, or maybe Chris mentioned, some people say this, but that the first hand could feel a little bit like setup, because part of the wildness is that when you go on the way back, you're like, oh, I missed a cube, that's where the drama is. But, and I think he makes a great point, because having played it sometimes now, that the important thing is once you go the first time through, that's when you choose whether you were trying to win or lose or kind of get in the middle, and it kind of sets your hand uniquely for what it's going to be. Like he said, once they played where it was all just random and players did much worse. Or I think he played many times like that, and it's just much worse. So I think it makes sense that you have to play there and back again. And it's fun to play there, because I don't know the strategy yet. I've only played a little bit. But the idea of, do you want to win highest and lowest? Because then it's easier on the way back to know, oh, I just want to be really high right now, or I just want to be really low right now. Or lose a lot at the start, so that when you come back, you can just try to lose and be off suit a lot near the end. There are some things you can kind of set yourself up for, which I think are interesting in the first hand. So yeah, a delight. I hope to play it more, hopefully cover it on the channel soon. But yeah, that was a really fun one to jump into. Rewind. Chris had a lot of his games, and I think there was a good Chris Wray showing at the T3C. And it was also wonderful to play games with him. We actually played Rebel Princess again, which was so nice. Solid. I can't wait to see it come out, hopefully soon, and get bigger distribution, because I think it's a really, really fun one. And spoiler alert for next video, it is on the top 10 list of thematic trick-taking games that I did with Chris Wray and Thinker Themer. So that was wonderful. We also played Chris's Totally Not T9, which I did a video for. That was fun. It was cool to hear the story behind it and how it was made for someone who was turning 40, kind of like him. And it's nice to have like a nice story behind a design that isn't just, hey, I thought this crazy mechanic would work, and it did. Other really fun things we did, we played Xylotar and Sandbag, so a lot of some of the Bezier showings, which was great. I'll get a little bit to some funny moments with that, but also the overall vibe was great. We would bounce around. It was great to play with different players, also play it at different tables, and there's a really nice flow. I think there's a great flow to conventions like that, where they have a lot of people but not too many people, to where you see the same people, you play with the same people a lot, but there's also fun moments where you can like leave a table and get like a whole, new vibe, or new fresh set of personalities at the table, which is so great. We didn't all play trick-taking games. Taylor Hall, the amazing Taylor Hall, brought so many of these old, like, Leo Calvini games. One of them was Die Osternsel. Die Osternsel. You are racing Easter Island heads. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild game. If not only for the components alone. A lot of racing games actually were played that con. My favorite, we played this game of Magical Athlete, which is coming out from CMYK, which I cannot wait to play. And Magical Athlete, if you're unfamiliar, it's a roll and move, but every player has wacky abilities, and you actually get to bid on which players you want to be in your kind of enclave, if I'm using that word right. So what we decided to do, because someone had it, was someone had just like hundreds of characters, like custom characters that they made, where they got off Board Game Geek, like kind of fan-made expansions, and we played with those. And it was wild. It was one of maybe my most memorable gaming experiences. It was absolutely insane. Two things really stood out. One was, I picked a character where I don't roll to move anymore. I just count, and every 10 seconds, I move one space. Sorry, video cut out. But, so the player power that I had was every 10 seconds, I would move. The player power someone else had, unfortunately, was whenever someone uses a power or activates their power, you get to move a space. So I was moving every 10 seconds, but someone else was moving right behind me. So we were just moving. So every step I made, they made. So we were just moving. But then, of course, as what happens in Magical Athlete, someone else's power triggered, so that person also moved again. So then I couldn't win no matter what I could do. Because every time I moved, they move. Yeah, it was a tad upsetting. No, it's classic Magical Athlete. The other thing that happened, which was so funny. One person had a character where if anyone along the table says certain words, that then they get to move forward. So it was words like space or spaces, roll or rolls, 1, 2, 3, move or moves, characters, anything, right? Kind of a lot of keywords that you would say in the game. And so we were trying to be quiet and not really say much and trying to not really help it out. But as we do the race, my character eventually passes the finish line. To the left of me is someone who, we're just joking, we're ribbing each other, and they were about to win. And so as a joke, I thought it'd be very funny because they were playing a little bit of a foil. They were holding me back. They had an ability that would hold me back. And so they were stopping me, and I was just like, please stop stopping me. And they kept doing it, so I was like, you know what? After I made it, I turned over to them and I was like, cards, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it made the other person, who was the words person, all the way in the back, zoom all the way past them to the front. And it was right before that person rolled. The person was right at the finish line. And they're like, and they tried to roll. But I was just like, cards. It was so funny. Absolutely loved it. Wonderful gaming moments. Just a wacky situation. Oh, can't wait till Magical Athlete is out there. It's going to be so much fun. So, that was a good time to talk about. On the second day, they had this wonderful giveaway scavenger hunt. So, what was great about it was it forced you not only to play with different people, but a lot of different games. Right before it, they actually had like a May Follow happy hour, which was fun. I don't think I did. Oh, I played Trick and Trade at the very end, so that was fun. But the giveaway was so clever because if we can just look at it here, you have the giveaway sheet. You say, play a game. You can only use a game once, which is perfect. And then play a game with 10 different people, meaning you have to get up, move around, and, try to meet or play with at least most of the people there, which was great. So, some normal stuff that I have on here. I played a May Follow trick-taking game, so I played Trick and Trade. I played 10 Tricks Later, which was pretty good. It was Taylor's kind of game of the con, and I love the theme to it, like winning tricks to bring over people and then try to convert them into your blockade. I think I want to play it more. I don't know if I was a little stilted on like the flow of it all, and I also wonder if like a good hand's a good hand, a bad hand's a bad hand. That's always a thing in trick-taking games that I don't love. So hoping to play it again. But yeah, so I played 10 Tricks Later. So there was a must-follow trick-taking game, a may-follow trick-taking game, a must-not-follow trick-taker. And that one, I played Makai Fuda, which is this recent one from Tokyo Game Market where it's must-not-follow, but you are trying to predict which of the suits is going to win the most. And they're asymmetric, so like the red suit is really strong, but it can lose to maybe some of the lower suits. And after you get dealt your hand, you're going to pick one of your cards in your hand, and that's going to be kind of your prediction. And then you're going to play like 10 tricks or something, and the monster that wins the most tricks wins. And it's interesting. I think at 3 players I liked it more. At 4 players, there's just too much that can kind of happen in like a prediction game like that. It was just a little bit tough to control. I like it 4 that you might have more situations where 2 people are going after one monster, but then at 4 you have 4 suits, so I don't know how often that was happening. And I kind of liked it at 3 when 2 people went for one because it was like a 1v2, so I really liked that. So I think I liked it most at 3 players. Then we played Ultra 10, which is, the premise of that is, I think it's a commentary on how Ultra 10, or Ultra, I don't know the character's name, Ultraman, but there's kind of like this Power Ranger type character in Japan, even though I guess Power Rangers are Japanese, I think. But anywho, who fights Mothra and Godzilla and kind of some kaiju stuff. But they had a thing where like they're kind of good, but then they just start destroying buildings, and you're trying to like not have that happen for the most part. So it was a fun little commentary on the idea of giant superheroes actually being more destructive than they are worth anything. But it was good. It was pretty simple, fun little theme, cute little deck. It was a good time. Then, it was an interesting situation. So it was play a game you've never played before. And I have played Of What's Left 70, 80, 100 times probably at this point. But what was so funny was I had actually literally never played a full game of Sears Catalog up until that point. I've played hands of it. I've tested out powers when Ted and I were talking about like development for this. So, but what was so funny was I've literally never played a full game of this. So under game I have never played before, I have put Sears Catalog, which was absolutely lovely. And then to continue the bit, the next one is game you have played before. I played the game Backhander. It's a one-handed game that I had never played before, but we played it twice. So I took the second one and I put it under the never have played before, which is great. Backhander, which I think is actually getting republished soon, I think in June or so, is an interesting game. So the premise is you deal out cards on the top, and this is kind of what this AI is going to kind of play. And you want to win the second most tricks, I believe. I think that's how it works. But if you win, you can push a card for later in the row. And what that does is not only it's the card that AI player is playing, but it's also trump. Or kind of like the lead suit or whatever. And it's also, yeah, because it's the suit you also have to lead. It's fascinating. It's cool how you can like manipulate stuff. I want to play it again, even though I did get a couple hands in. I think interacting with that timeline is a really interesting mechanic. So I'm hoping to play it again, especially if it gets republished here in a bit. I'll get a chance to play with the new deck that's coming out, which will be great. Next one was Has Partnerships. Oh, we played Mew, which I love. I really need a video on Mew. It's right over here. It is such a good game. I think it's one of those classics where if a game's around for a while, I struggle with how to cover it because I don't know what I'm adding to the discussion, right? Like, I'm always hesitant of being redundant and shouting out into the void, stuff that's been said. So I want to play Mew a lot, and I want to have a good angle on it. And I don't know if I've just played it enough for that. But we played it as partnerships, and it's just absolutely wonderful. It was really cool because we played with someone who has played a ton and someone who hasn't played too much. And maybe I'm closer to the hasn't played too much, but I've kind of in the middle there. And it was really fun to learn from the person who's played a lot, but also kind of work off it in a fun way because there was a lot more newer people at the table this time. And we played at 5, which I think is just a wonderful player count. Then Has a Trump suit. We played Stamp Out Bootleggers, which is part of Totally Not T9. Then we played Climbing Shitting Game. We played Batak, which is Shrish Bot's standard deck Climbing Shitting Game for 3. And it's, I think, their take on kind of Fight the Landlord Chimera vibes. And it was great. It was so cool. Someone had marked up a deck because you can just kind of make it. And it was a great time. It flowed nicely. There's fun bidding in it. And we had a great time playing it. It's one of those things where I think Shrish just has a wonderful eye for what makes a design sing, like just smooth but still have like really fun choices. So it was really nice to play Batak, and I hadn't played. I think the last thing I played by them was Aurum, so it was nice because that was maybe a couple months ago. So it was nice to get into the Shrish game. And the last one was a game that you won, which was for some people very hard to complete because you could only use things once, and once you wrote them down, you couldn't quite change them up. So for must-follow trick-taking game, I was like, do I do that one last? Do I try to really win one of these early ones and get one in the you win? And I kind of did it in the middle. Let's just say I did not have the best luck, but I did finally win a game called Don't Drop the Ring, which I actually have right here. It's an interesting game. I think I talked a little bit about it in the T9 video. But essentially, we played it instead of at 5, because at T9 I played it at 5, which is kind of overstayed its welcome, not the most interesting. But at 3, it was good. It was really, really good. You don't have the gold, which is like the wild suits, which I think is just kind of people adding stuff to a game just to make it go to 5 players, which I hate. Sometimes I think people try to force higher player counts, which I never like. And I think that this game kind of has that. But we played it at 3, and it worked. It worked great. There's some really, really fun moments, and I think it moved at a nice clip, so it was a good time. But that was the one that I won. Overall, an absolutely wonderful scavenger hunt. So much fun. And we got to the point where it was so nice to be able to play all these different games with people, and even ones that I had played before, at least playing it with new people. I met a ton of people on the trip, which was so much fun. After that, people were kind of just hanging out and being goofs. I played, interestingly, at the end of the night, Church vs. Martin Luther, which isn't on BGG. It is a fascinating game. The premise is very steeped in theme that I don't really know too well. I don't really know Martin Luther lore or church lore very well. But I guess there's the premise of indulgences, I think, and the idea of Martin Luther being in the game or not. We'll switch it to being kind of an avoidance game to like a trick-taking game, which is fun. Kind of like off Fosher Farte or Baranda, which we've chatted a little bit about. But it's one of those cool things where if someone's winning a lot, they're looking out because if someone hasn't taken a trick, and if at the end that person hasn't taken a trick, then it's like really, really bad for them. What's wild about the game, and what's super tough about the game if you're trying to not take any tricks, is the trump suit changes depending on the lead. So if I'm remembering correctly, if like a spades is led, clubs is trump, or like one of the other suits is trump, and then kind of vice versa throughout it. So it's really tough to shoot the moon and not take any tricks, because you're never sure of what someone's going to lead. That might, not randomly, but unfortunately, bring you back into winning because you now are holding trump. It was wild. I did it, we played 3 hands or so, and I did it on the last hand where I didn't take any tricks, but it was terribly, terribly nerve-wracking. And it was one of those ones where, like, if they would have just played a different card in a different order, I definitely would have gotten totally tricked and would have had to take the trick. So really fun, though. I always love a good shoot the moon mechanism. Kind of like Bug Howl and Soul of Backyardia, ones that make you really nervous, really tense, your heart's beating, you're not sure if you're going to make it, and then you do. Oh, so fun. So that was Church vs. Martin Luther. And we also played that night Tatsu, which is over here as well. How convenient. It's the re-implementation of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or Twilight. They, not to be confused with the 2-player one, Jekyll versus Hyde. But this is wild. This is maybe one of the craziest trick-taking games I've ever played. It is just so bizarre. It feels like it's trick-taking, but it is very borderline, like, what are we doing here? Because the hook is you can play cards for your opponents, you can play cards for your partner, and all you have to do is, like, ask for it. So when it comes to you can be like, hey, could you play for me? And the game kind of boils down to, like, a push and pull of when do you ask somebody to play for you? It's way more important than, like, what you play. In fact, like, what you play is often obvious, depending on whom you're playing it for. So, very fascinating, wild game. It's interesting that this wild of a trick-taking game is so old, and this Fresh Coat of Paint by Matago is gorgeous. So that was most of the games we played. I do want to say I had an amazing time. Please go. Wonderful people there. Everyone is so, so, so nice and accommodating and helpful. Just the kindest. I absolutely loved it. I really regret having left, actually, on Sunday kind of night. Because on Sunday, it was so, so, so wonderful. The amazing Taylor not only has a great name, decided that they would just do the best city tour I've ever had. We went on a tour of Austin, and Austin has so much to do, so many sights to see, so many landmarks, so much history, so many fun facts, not to mention any of the food, which we sadly did not have time to do. But we just had easily the best city tour I've ever had, to the point where, yes, the trick taking was wonderful. Yes, the people were great. But I want to go back to T3C to continue this tour. It was cut short because me and Chris had to fly out. But, oh man, it was just so wonderful. Such hospitality, such amazing people. Please go. It's wonderful. Oh, I've never been so... Please go to a con as this one, because it was absolutely, absolutely wonderful. Yes, there's other ones that I obviously hope you go to. I think Deathshire West was an absolutely wonderful one. Check the video out next week. But this was just so intimate, so fun, so, like, filled with fun chats. And we had just quirky moments like, instead of a prize table, there was a prize couch, which you would get if you filled this out. In fact, really funny story, I wrote Pacific Typhoon on here, and it's actually the last game I haven't really chatted on. Because a very funny moment was, there was kind of a race to fill this out, because the earlier you fill this out, you got to go to the prize couch and get a prize. And I was playing with someone, Srinivas, who did not have this fully filled out. They just needed one more, and they needed like a game they hadn't played before. And someone was like, do you want to play Pacific? I keep calling it Tycoon, but Pacific Typhoon. And it's like, sure. And I felt so bad because it ended up being like a 2 to 3 hour game. If you're not aware of Pacific Typhoon, it's wild. It's wild. It's so wild. Okay, let me do a little bit of a rules teach rant. So, okay, the theme is the Pacific Theater, World War II. The suits, there's like 10 different suits on the cards, right? All the cards are from, I think, the year 41 all the way to 45. And when you play a card, oh gosh, okay. There's a different set of cards, like reward cards. And the person whose turn it is to choose will pick 2, and they'll show 1, and it'll have a year on it. And you can only play cards that have that year or later. So if they play 43, and you only have... Oh, sorry, that year or earlier, I think. Yeah. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. Who cares? So if they have a 43 and you only have a 45 in your hand, you can't play it. But if you have like a 42 or 43 or 41, you can play it. So what else you can't play is there's daytime, nighttime, and then both. And so you have to follow suit on that. And then also there's Allied and Axis, and so it's a team game. On top of that, you're comparing strength for the morning, whenever, and night. And then on top of that, there's dice rolling. And then on top of that, each card has a card that kind of like is a perfect counter to it, where if someone plays it, like a type of battleship, and someone else goes, bah! I have the missile that killed that battleship, they'll immediately get a point, or 5 points, or 10 points, or I don't even know. So there's that. And then there's also shapes on the cards. So like there's battleships and planes and people, and certain cards let you add 2 cards together. And you also don't have to play into every trick. You can instead discard 1 or discard your whole hand and be out of the trick. And after every trick you play, you draw back up. And it's 2 hours long. So that was fun. That was cool. That was really cool. That was really cool. It's a wild game. I have a rules teach coming up for it soon. On the 1st of April. Anyway, Srinivas was like, okay, I'll play this game. But it took so long, like half the prize table was empty by the time the game was over. So that was a wild moment. Anyway, so much fun. Everyone was a hoot. Great chats, great games. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. And seriously, Taylor's Austin tour is like, was the best lifetime memory moment. I was blown away. Makes me want to move to Austin. It was that good. So great. But thank you, everyone. Derek, Aaron, Jake, Taylor. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Thank you so much also to the people who were playing Of What's Left in Short Zootsuit. That was really, really, really kind. It was kind of the first con. I think T9 also had some people playing Of What's Left in Short Zootsuit. But it was the first con where someone came up and was like, oh, you're here. We just played your game. And I was like, oh, thanks. That's wild. Thank you so much. I think RJ, in fact, had a really funny moment where he came up and was like, hey, we played your game Owl About, which is a different trick-taking game. And I was like, oh, thank you, because I knew what they meant. Like, I was just like, yeah, whatever. And someone's like, that's not it. It was great. Everyone had a good laugh. It was a good time. So much fun. It was great talking to everyone there. There was someone whom I didn't know then, but now I definitely do. Ken Tidwell? I'm terrible with names. But that was fascinating to meet him. I didn't realize he was very, very, very early on board game website that was, reviewing and chatting about board games so much ahead of the curve. And it was really, really interesting to pick his brain. It was absolutely wonderful. But yes, everyone there, an absolute delight. So much fun to play. I met so many people. I mean, Matt, Kyle, I can't even name them all. Chris, both Chris's. There was 2 Chris W's. What am I doing? Okay, this seems like an Oscar speech. Thank you so much, everyone. It was an absolute blast. Please go. Please go, please go, please go, please go, please go. It's the best. Awesome. Thank you. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Or not tomorrow. Next video. I'm losing it. I'm sorry. It's 3:15 in the morning. Do you see that? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Bye!